Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. I am Ryan Bowden, and thank you all for joining me. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys have already seen this video. You probably already heard about what Jerry Seinfeld have said in his commencement speech, I believe at Duke University, in which he made the statement to the audience that you should use your privilege and not be ashamed of it. That's essentially what he said in so many ways. Of course, as you probably already know, there were people in the audience that walked out. They're upset, yicking and yakking and hollering, free Palestine and all this type of stuff. But I want to hone in on this because I agree with a lot of what he is saying, and I'm going to explain to you in detail why I agree with him in reference to, taking advantage of your privilege and using it. Okay, because that word has been flopped around all, like in so many different ways. It's just ridiculous. But let's get right into this. Yeah. And I actually got a chance to hear a portion of his speech in, I don't know if it was ABL or Random T. Tatum's video, one of them, but I think it might have been ABL. And I got a chance to listen into what he was saying in the commencement speech. But I wanted to hone in on this. So let's read. I'm going to read a little bit of this speech to you guys. I'm going to give you my own opinion on why I agree with what he is saying here. So let's get right into this. Legendary comedian Jerry Seinfeld delivered a salient commencement speech at Duke University over the weekend, advising students to celebrate their privilege instead of feeling ashamed. Now, that goes against the grain of what we're hearing in the mainstream media about privilege, right? Though headlines focus on the small group of students who walked out of Jerry Seinfeld's commencement speech due to his support for Israel, the actual substance of his remarks held great significance, okay? And that's what you've been hearing, about all, people walking out and all this, and these words where it says, privilege is a word that has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I would like to take a moment to defend it, he told the crowd, prompting respectful applause. He said, Jerry further advises the students to, quote, use their privilege and make something of it. Now, I like this part when he talks about this because, of course, he's going to use his privilege. I mean, who wouldn't? But anyway, he says, I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. This is a privilege if you want to be a comedian, he said. You went to Duke. That is an unbelievable privilege. I now have an honorary doctorate of humane letters degree, and if I can figure out how to use that, I will. As an example, Jerry talked about working on his hit sitcom Seinfeld in the 1990s and how certain writers and crew members would be ashamed to admit they went to a school like Harvard, which he jokingly said used to be, quote, a good school. And let me hone in right here. I mean, I never really watched Seinfeld. It wasn't something I watched. And it wasn't because I was against that show or so. It just wasn't something that I was into, I mean, I just wasn't into it. That's why, yes. So, but yeah, from what I understand, it's a legendary sitcom, and it was a great sitcom, and it lasted quite a long time. So, yeah. The comedian also took jabs at AI, asserting that it encourages people to admit they cannot do anything. It would instead ask a machine to do it for them. I agree. What's there to disagree right there? I totally agree. And by the way, if you guys hear this dog barking over here, yeah, that's what you hear. You hear the sounds of this stupid dog over here barking. I'm so sick of these dogs. I swear, for God, Lord have mercy. But anyway, yeah, and I agree. I agree with this. I agree with this, with the idea that AI asserts that it basically encourages people to admit that they can't do anything. Instead, they will use a machine to do it for them. I agree with that. I think that causes people to be lazy. He says, this is something to be embarrassed about. The ad campaign for a chat GPT should be the opposite of Nike. You just can't do it, he said. As Breitbart News reported, several students walked out of Seinfeld's commencement speech due to his support for Israel. Okay. And then he goes on to say, students at Duke's University commencement walked out of the ceremony on Sunday in protest of comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who was set to receive an honorary degree, with some students booing the comedian and shouting, free, free Palestine, said the report. Jerry Seinfeld has publicly supported Israel in the months since the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack. And that's no shock. There's no surprise he's Jew. I mean, he's a Jewish person. What would we expect? Of course, he's going to support his own people. Anyway, Video footage from Sunday's ceremony posted to social media shows groups of students standing up and leaving in protest, with some of them carrying the Palestinian flag, it added. Jerry Seinfeld has not publicly commented on the matter. End of article. And that's all there is. That's all she wrote right there. Yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you guys have already heard about this. You probably already honed in on it. You've probably already given your comments. Other YouTube content creators have already given their comments on it, but I have to hone in on myself. And I'm going to just put up out right here what I did here in the commencement speech. I agree. I agree. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. First of all, we got to look at what it means to be privileged. Privilege is something that you didn't earn. It's something that you were born with, or was something that was given to you. You didn't earn it. It's just your play. That's what it is. You didn't earn it. It's a privilege. I'll give an example of someone who was privileged, and he used his privilege to his advantage. Donald Trump. Donald Trump wasn't born in poverty. Donald Trump was born, from what I can remember, because I think I read his biography years ago. And from what I can remember in the biography, it states that Donald Trump, his father was a rich, wealthy businessman, I believe. And he loaned Donald Trump at a certain age. He loaned Donald Trump a certain amount of money. I believe he loaned him a certain amount of money. It was in the millions. And it was up to Donald Trump to do what he needed to do in order to become rich, like his father was, So that's a privilege. Donald Trump didn't ask to be born into that kind of family. He didn't earn it. He was born into it. It was just the way it was. He was privileged. But what he did do was that he took the money that was given to him by his father, and instead of buying a bunch of cars and material and investing in buying a bunch of nonsense like a lot of us would have done, I'm pretty sure I probably would have done the same thing. Having the mindset that I had back then, I probably would have bought a bunch of material things and did nothing to invest the money. He took that money and he invested it into real estate, and look at where he became one of the richest people in America. He became a billionaire. So he was born into a privileged family, but he took advantage of that privilege. He utilized that privilege to the best of his ability, and he made something out of himself. So I agree with Jerry Seinfeld on that. Yeah, you should use your privilege. Don't feel bad about it. People see this is what aggravates me about the radical left. Yeah, I'm getting on them, and people don't like that. Look, you ain't got to watch these videos. You just I get on the radical left because radical left is radical, and they're crazy and they're nutbags. That's why I get on them. They're irrational, radical nutbags. People don't like it. They don't have to watch these videos. It's not like a whole bunch of people are watching my videos anyway. So I'm at the point where I just simply don't care. Okay, look, I get on them because they're crazy. And having said that, it's the radical left that came up with this idea of white privilege that came out in the 1970s, and I believe stemmed from critical theory and critical race theory. And this actually came out, I believe, in the 70s. And the whole idea was that white people have money and prestige and power and all the rest because of the fact that they're white. Due to the fact that they're white, certain doors have been opened to them, certain pathways have been made for them, and they didn't earn it. It was just given to them due to the fact that they're white. Now, is that true to some extent? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure there's some white privilege, of course. I'm pretty sure there was white privilege then, there's white privilege now. Certain doors and avenues were open for them simply because they're white. Of course. But the problem with that, and the way that the radical left spins that narrative, is that all white people are privileged. And the fact that you're white, you're going to have this, and you're going to have that, and you're going to have that. That's how they spin it. Okay? But that's a straight lie from hell itself. That is not true. In fact, most white people earn what they have. Most white people earn a degree. Most white people go to school. Most white people work hard. Most white people work harder than most other people of other ethnicities work. It is what it is. They work to get it, okay? You may have some white folks that are privileged. I get it. They're given these positions because they're white. And then white counterparts give it to them and say, okay, hey, you want to give you this because you're white. You're superior to everyone else. Okay, that may be true. But most white people work for what they have. Okay, and it is what it is. Most white people work for what they have. But if you have that privilege, what Jerry Seinfeld is saying, if you have that privilege, use it. Don't feel bad about it. Think about this. It's the people that are born into a privileged situation didn't ask to be born into a privileged situation. A person that's born into an unprivileged situation and a harsh situation didn't ask for that, but neither did the person that was born into a privileged situation. They didn't ask for it. It's just something that happened. It is what it is. You can argue, well, God calls it to be that way. I don't want to get into all that foolishness. It's just cause and effect. It's something that happened. It's something that happened. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What is that person going to do about it? If they're born in a privileged situation where they didn't earn it, but they were born into it, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to feel bad? Are they going to feel depressed? Are they going to feel like they're just somebody, you just an evil, bad person like the radical left trying to make them out to be? Are they going to take that privilege and utilize it and do something with it and make something out of themselves? You can either do it that way or you can walk around crying and boo-hooing. So I agree with him on that. What's there to disagree with him on? What's there to disagree with him on? I mean, certain people are privileged. Certain people are not privileged. It is what it is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we make our life what it is. Whether we're born into a privileged situation or not. You have some people that are born into a privileged situation and they don't take advantage of those privileges. They don't take advantage of those blessings, if you will, and those benefits, and they abuse them and they end up becoming broke, busted, and disgusted. And then you have some people that are born into situations that are horrible, that you would think, man, how come you didn't slit your wrists? How come you didn't jump off the freaking bridge? I mean, that's terrible. But they're born into situations and circumstances that the regular 9-to-5 person, if you will, would look at it and say, man, what in the world? This is crazy. This is insane. But yet they make something out of themselves. They go against all odds, against all logic, and make something out of themselves. At the end of the day, whether one is born with privilege or whether one is born without privilege, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what that individual person is willing to do with their life and with what's before them. You got to work. My philosophy is like this. You got to work with what's with you, what you have before you. If you're born into a situation that's not a privileged situation, then the question inevitably is, what do I need to do to become better? Do I go around protesting and crying out to the government and going around saying the reason why I don't have this and the reason why I don't have that is because of systemic racism? Or do I do something else besides crying, boo-hoo, and fart and poop all day like a lot of people like to do? I don't support that at all. Yes, everyone's situations are different. Yes, everyone has different circumstances, and we need to know those person's circumstances before we pass judgment. But I'm here to let you know that in my personal opinion, based on my observations and experience, most of the people that I've come in contact with their boo-hoo and poo and snot and yah, is because they've been brainwashed to believe that their plight is caused by some ghostly white apparition out there that's making them be in this situation at the end. That's a lie. You are in the best position you can possibly be right now. Stop listening to these politicians, man. These radical leftist Marxist politicians filling your mind with a bunch of bull crap. Because whether we born with privilege or not, we still born into a country that large in part, you still have the freedom and the right to be whatever you want to be. The opportunities are there. We still can be, even if we're born without that privilege, to be whatever we want to be. That's just how I see it, you know. So I agree with Seinfeld on that. Yeah, man, look, if you're born with that privilege, don't put yourself down. Don't feel bad. You know, let me start some of the video up on this. What was that lady's name? Back in the early 2000s, Paris Hilton, I believe her name is Paris Hilton. You know, I used to hear this all the time, right? You know, and this is before I became conservative, obviously. And I had the leftist mindset like a lot of people had, you know. And here's this white woman, very beautiful woman, who was born into a privileged situation. From what I understand, correct me in the comment box if I'm wrong, she was born into a rich family. Privilege. White woman. You could argue she had white privilege, right? You know what I mean? You could argue that, although that's not totally accurate, because you got some black people that are born into money. Okay, but anyway. And yet people would talk about her and put her down. I would see it in celebrities would put her down. And it actually literally, there was a reality show created where she actually had to work on a farm and get her hands dirty and all this kind of nonsense. And it was just crazy. And I was like, why is everybody, and I remember thinking, even during that time, why is everybody hating on this woman? It's not her fault that she's born into a privileged situation. And what I think a lot of that comes from is jealousy, because they don't have it. They got to down and put other people down who have privilege. Okay. But I think a lot of that comes from jealousy. But yeah, they created an actual reality show out of it. And then there was a movie that came out, a horror movie came out. It was called the Wax something. I forget, the Wax Museum or something like that. Anyway, and she was one of the characters in the movie. And when she got killed, had a spear through her head. I saw the movie. She was killed. People applauded for it. And I'm like, why would you? And I'm thinking to myself, why would you applaud for this character getting his spear shot through her head? Because she had privilege, right? Like it was her fault. Unbelievable. Unbelievable with the stuff that people allow themselves to be brainwashed and conditioned to believe. But yeah, no, I agree with Jerry Seinfeld on that. You know, if you're born with privilege, use it to the best of your ability. If you're not born with that privilege, do something with what you do have. Whether you're born with it or not, we still live in a country where we're free to be whatever we can be. It's up to us individually to get up off our lazy do-nothings and do something about it. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think about what Jerry Seinfeld said? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.